everyone. Now let's add some titles to these images by bringing the focus down here to our asset box and saying File, New, Bin. We're going to keep a folder set up so that it's organized. I'm going to call this one Titles. And it's going to do the same thing for me that the Images bin does, which is allow me to hide them when I'm not working with them. There is a button that you can use to create that. It's down here in the lower right hand corner, so not always visible, but there's the New Bin button right there. Let me bring this back and reset it and start with my first title. First of all, I'm going to have my current time indicator over the picture that is going to receive the title, and then I'm going to go to File, New, Title. This one is going to be for my first picture, so since I renamed them, I know this is 1A, and I am going to put in what is this title for. Not necessarily what's going to be on the title, but that will help me find it easily later. Now the titler is a window that can be expanded, so I'm going to go ahead and move this to full screen. What you see here are some tools, the quick settings right here, and then more detailed access to settings there. Now you don't need to use these, and in fact if you do, you have to make significant changes to the font, the color, something, because these have been overused quite a bit. There are also fonts that we don't use at all. So this is the background image for my creation, and instead of just typing and then clicking on it and then typing out whatever it is that I want, you'll notice that it'll just run right off the screen, and we don't want that to happen at all. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one with the arrow, go back to my T for typing tool. I'm going to make sure that I click and drag away from the borders. You do not want to be right up against the edge. And I'm going to use maybe this section in order to have my title on there. So I'm going to put Skyrim down here is kind of hard to read, so I will include the name of the game in there. Skyrim is huge. It's a very large open game, and so what I can do is highlight that if I need to make some changes to it. Now it's very hard to read here, but one of the things that can make it more legible is to choose a bold version of the font. It's also easier to switch around and try different fonts by just clicking in the font box and using the up or down arrow. Now it's very hard to read, and I'm going to show you how to make any colored text very legible on any color background with a couple of tricks here. First of all, I'm going to go over here to the right hand side. You can see that if I want to turn off the background, it's pretty easy. And I'm going to do a couple of changes. It looks like with this font it's kind of close together there, so I'm going to try and change some of these numbers here. That's going to give me a little more space. But let's get to the actual text here. So if I want there to be an outline around that, I can add a stroke right here. Adding in a stroke defaults to a black edge stroke with a 10 width, and you can see that I can click and drag on that to make it larger or smaller. So that's one way to make it pretty easy to read. Another way is to create a glow around the words. So you do that with a shadow of 0 distance. Because this is light text, I'm going to do a dark shadow, so the default black is helpful. Bring the opacity up to 100 and bring the distance down to 0. Now you can see that size and spread are set to 0 and 30 by default here. If I bring it down to 0, you can barely see that there's a shadow behind those letters. The key here is to bring up size and spread until you get the effect you're looking for. Size makes it thicker and deeper, and then spread spreads it out so it's more of a glow. So there it is without and with the shadow of 0 distance. So that makes it pretty easy to see. Should I decide that instead I want this to be in the lower right hand corner, it does look pretty easy to read. Some changes I might do is change it so that it goes over to right justification, and then I can change the colors. So the fill is the color of the text. I'm going to change it to black and show you can't even see the words anymore. But if I change the color of my shadow to white, now you can see that very easily. So you can make any color visible on any background, and we do that by adding it right here on the video 2 track so I can see the animation with the words on it. If I wish to use the same system again, I can go over here to this game, double click on Skyrim, and it will open up that same title again. But we don't want to change this one. This one does belong to Skyrim. So let's make a copy. There's a button right here that says new title based on current title. Basically makes a copy. This is 1B, Fallout. And now I can use my text editor and change this text to something else. I do need to include the name of the game because it's not part of this. So Fallout has always been fun. Notice that I cannot see anymore. So there's a couple things that I can do. I can make this text box bigger, but now it's really intruding on the image. What I might do with this one is actually have it as a single line of text underneath please stand by. So I'm going to have to reduce the font size so that it can all fit across the bottom. This is a lot of text, but because the image is very simple, it can I can work with that. Let's watch that one now. Dragging Fallout to that title, I can have Fallout has always been fun right across the bottom, without intruding on the picture, because the picture is rather a simple one. Let me do one more here. Double clicking on Fallout, I can have the same text here by making a new one. This is 1C, and this one is Alliances. And this one is just going to say my mobile game. I can again change the size of that text box, grabbing the end of it, maybe bringing it up. My mobile game. Deciding where it's going to go down here in the corner because the title's up here. Now I've got 1, 2, 3. I forgot. Nope. So these have been made outside of my titles bin. I'm going to move them in there. Try and stay organized. Bring the alliances, put it over there, see what that looks like. We'll be adding transitions to animate those titles. Right now we just want smooth motion on the images and titles in places where they can be easily read based on your color combinations.